Hello, everybody. I thought that today I would pop on and share something that is really important to me. I'm going through some emotional changes again, everybody does in their life, and I really felt called to share who I am and where I come from. And a lot of my personal story has to do with the fact that I'm an adopted child. So I was adopted at 10 days old. My biological mother, I was told, was unable to keep me. She wasn't in a place in her life where she was very stable, and she was very young. So she decided to place me up for adoption. My parents, who did raise me, wonderful people, absolutely wonderful. Here they are. This is a few years ago, my parents. But they tried for a long time to have a child, and without success, decided to start the adoption process. They started in end of January 1978 and started to go through rigorous testing like parenting classes and paperwork and home visits and all the stuff that kind of goes along with the adoption process. My parents were amazing, are amazing. They're very loving, kind, compassionate people who really didn't see a boundary between me as a blood related or non-blood related child and a child who maybe was blood related. Eventually, they went on to have another child, my sister, and I was treated very, very fairly compared to her as well. So we did all kinds of stuff. I mean, they have a summer home where they now live. But we spent the time boating and swimming and hanging out and campfires and you name it. I mean, we ran around as kids just, into everything and discovering and climbing trees and, all those fun, really get down and dirty kid stuff, weren't just stuck at home. It's not like today where kids play video games. Anyways, so it was a really great time in my life as a child. I had a lot of fun. I felt very loved and very cared for. And going into my teen years is where I really struggled. I think naturally as people, we all go to this place of how do I fit? Where do I belong? How do I relate to other people in my world? And there was a part missing for me. It wasn't that my parents didn't try or didn't understand. I mean, it's not their fault. They did the best that they could with the tools that they were given. And, I just was angry and I felt like nobody understood me and I had no connection. And like anything, we vent to those that we love the most. We express our emotion to those places where we feel safe. And unfortunately, it came out to my parents. I really, really ruined the relationship as a teenager. But you know what? They loved and supported me through it as best that they knew how. When I had been living away from the house for a few years, I got pregnant with twins. And I was terrified to tell my parents. I was terrified. We didn't have a great relationship. We weren't really talking. And you know what? They loved and supported me through that. It was a time in my life where I felt so alone. And at that point, I needed the connection the most. And I am so thankful for that every single day. So when I was pregnant with my twins, at about 4.5 months, my dad, who raised me, got a phone call from my uncle. And my uncle said, "Hey, guess what? I just had a phone call from someone looking for Joanna." And had asked several questions to make sure that it was the place that, she was supposed to be phoning and whatnot. And so then my dad turned around and sort of phoned me and said, "Hey, guess what? I have this phone number. You do what you want with it, but here's the number." So it was kind of an awkward conversation, and I didn't really know what to say, and I was quite shocked because up until that point I'd pretty much convinced myself that it didn't matter. I was going to go along with my life, and it didn't matter. I closed off a part of myself emotionally in order to be able to do that. But anyways, so the person that phoned was actually a family member from my biological mom's side. And I phoned her, and she gave me my biological mom's phone number. And I sat with that. I sat with that on the floor, 5 months pregnant with twins. Like, I was pretty big at that point. And just I was shocked. I didn't know what to do. And I finally was like, you know what? I'm just going to get this over with. And I picked up the phone and I called. And it was almost like we knew immediately who was on the other end, because I think we barely got out a few words and started bawling. It was just so full of emotion and fear, and I was scared of being rejected. I was scared of not being enough. All of those sort of emotions that go along with it. And I found out later that she felt the same too. To me, it was really important to get to know this person. We decided to exchange letters. She didn't live that far from me, so it was a bit of a, boat ride, but still, we didn't want to go too fast, and I was scared. So we wrote some letters together, and then we decided that we'd like to meet. And to me, I didn't want to leave my parents out of this. This was really important to me. They had spent their whole life taking care of me and nurturing me and going through these, crazy growth stages with me that I wanted them to be there to grow with me as well. And thankfully they were open to doing that. And they helped set up a little buffet with some snacks, and, they were there for me, and the meeting went really well. It was a very positive, emotional, heartwarming time. And my mom put together this to me is just amazing, is that my mom put together a book of a bunch of things that were milestones for me growing up, and gave that to my biological mom. And that really served to bridge some emotional, growth periods, right? Because I think they both needed to grow personally, and feel secure. And I didn't want either one of them to feel like they were losing out on anything, especially my mom, because I love my mom to pieces. So that's where that was. And then I've just written some notes here so I don't forget. But my biological mother also had said to me, I spoke to your biological dad. We still know each other through, friends and stuff. And I let him know that this is what I was doing. And if you're interested, he's also open to meeting you. So we did that, and I connected with him, and I started, talking to him as well. And I found out through both of them that they have big families. There's a lot of people in their families, and they shared things that I thought, oh, that's like me. Oh yeah, no, I can relate to that. And so I finally started to find my connection, I guess, if you will. So over the years, my biological mom and my biological dad and I separately have created different friendships. It's been a building blocks. No, we don't have the history of, some of those parental-child conflicts. So it's a very different relationship. And I never would come out and call them mom or call them dad, because my parents, they are my parents. They picked me up when I fell down. They laughed with me. They cried with me. They hit every single milestone with me. And, that is what a parent-child relationship is. So we didn't go into this, meeting my biological parents. I didn't go into it looking for a parent. I went into it looking for a friend, looking to find connection and growth in my own life. At the time, I totally didn't feel that really, but I now, as a reflection, can look back and go, yeah, that's what I was looking for. I wasn't looking for someone to be my mom or someone to be my dad, because I already had that. So I think that was a really positive thing for our relationships, because it didn't create more chaos to my life. My biological parents have added to my life. I find, over the years, as we've learned a little bit about each other, my parents who raised me, they really taught me a lot about standing up for who you are and what you believe in. And they modeled really loving parenting rules, I guess you could say. My dad is extremely organizational, and I know that I learned that from him. They very openly show love with, hugs and how are yous, and, picking up the phone to say, hey, what's going on in your life? And that is really important too. I think to sticking with things, that's super important, as my parents have taught me that. So my biological dad, we physically kind of look alike. We have the same face shape. So here we are. This was recently, I don't know, less than a year ago. But he also has a super strong personality, and I know I get that from him. And he's really stubborn. But also positive things like, this entrepreneurial spirit, which I realize it's in there, it's in me. And I get that from him. My biological mom is very emotionally in tune to herself and expresses herself emotionally. So I take that after her. She's very much like that. And I know she's gone through a similar life process to discover who she is. So sometimes you wonder, is this really just a biological thing, or is this a learned behavior, right? So those are a couple of points, but the whole relationship with my parents was enriched by me being adopted. It was never a negative thing. I always knew. My mom told me I was born from another lady's tummy, which is funny because that's what goes through my head when people ask me, oh, well, did you always know? Well, yeah, my mom always told me I was born from another lady's tummy, and that didn't mean that she, loved me any less. It was just fact, and it was very normal for me. And growing up, I didn't know a lot about my biological parents, and I think, that was a really, really difficult thing. I was given this, 2 pieces of paper, actually. So this piece of paper, I don't know if you can see it. My biological parents' info is on here. And when they phoned, this is what my mother wrote down about me when they said, hey, we have a child for you. And it's just a very basic. I had an eye infection. It was still a little bit watery. It was 7 pounds, 12 ounces. A little bit about what my biological mother looked like in her birth year, and a little bit about what my biological dad looked like in his birth year. So that's kind of cool. And then also just this one piece of paper with background information. And, now I learn that it really, a lot of that is really not even that accurate, or they don't remember it being that accurate, but somebody must have said it at some point. I think too, just growing through the emotion was really, really hard. But I am so thankful that I was able to make those connections with my biological parents, because it really filled in this, shape of who I am and why my life is important and where I all fit. And, my biological mom has many sisters and brothers and their family. And now I'm getting to know all of them. And we do, go over and visit, and we have this interesting dynamic relationship where I fit there. But I also fit with my parents and my sister and, in the life that I grew up in. So it's just really an inclusion area. So yeah, that's kind of it in a nutshell. I also have some interesting things. My mom put together this, and it's this is my baby book, and it has inside here, it has all the details about the adoption and how that works. So that put a lot of understanding for me as well. So yeah, that's it. You're more than welcome to ask questions if you have any other questions about my parents or how that all worked or something I didn't cover or you're curious about. I'm totally open to that because, this is what makes me me. Anyways, that's it. Talk to you soon. Bye.